Hello. We usually don't meet like this. Honestly, I won't lie to you. I don't know if I'm going to do a lot of videos like this either. I don't know how well this video is going to be edited. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'll just be 110% honest. There has been a lot weighing on my mental lately in regards to things in my personal life and things that are happening not directly to me, but just in the world in general. I've been thinking genuinely so much about a lot. It's been tough to focus on my normal content. And there have been a select few things that have happened that I keep coming back to and I keep thinking about. And of course, the way that my brain works is I always relate everything that happens to anime and manga and fiction and just things that I've consumed and enjoyed in my life, whether you want to call that escapism. You can also say that there's part of the reason why the world is as crazy it is right now. But I digress. For me, I find a lot of positivity and find a lot of solace in being able to explore certain ideals and certain things that happen through the lens of stories that I enjoy. It's one of the things that made me want to do this channel. And even though this is completely unscripted, I'm going to really do my best to kind of explain my thoughts and get a lot of this off of my chest, specifically because I need to focus on other stuff. It's been almost like 2 weeks since I came out with a video. I do have a second channel which posts almost daily, so definitely check out that if you'd be interested in any of the weekly manga that you read. Realistically, for me and those of you that have always been to the streams or have been around the channel for a long time, you guys always know I like to be transparent. I like to be completely honest with you guys. I like to be open. Something that is, something that I try to pride myself on is I do try to take into consideration every perspective that exists in the world. I try to understand where everyone is coming from because at the end of the day, I do like to believe that most people think they are doing the right thing in life. However, sometimes I struggle. And it's overall just an understanding kind of thing. And what I mean by that specifically is to give you an example through anime and manga lens, you have a character like Itachi Uchiha, right? This character that is raised by the Uchiha clan, is the prodigy of the Uchiha clan. And through his efforts, he not only rises up the ranks in his own family as a very, mutually famous across the clan character, but you also have his efforts in the Leaf, the Konoha village that he's in, and he becomes a member of the Anbu. He does so much for just the village and falls in love with humanity and doesn't want to see harm. He, as a child, saw so much war, saw so much death. Even as a 6-year-old, I believe his mindset was like compared to that of a Kage, viewing everything from such a high place above and looking at everything from a bird's eye view with a different perspective. And not to compare myself to Itachi, I'm nothing like that. I wish I was that cool. Something that I always respected and thought was great, and I do try to keep as one of my personal axioms in life, is always being willing to understand, maybe not completely agree, absolutely never agree. There's a moment with Rudo from series called Gachiakuta where he tells one of the newer villains, everything that you stand for, I reject, and I embrace everything that you stand for. Itachi was faced with a tough choice, right? He could either betray his clan, not go through with the coup d'etat that they were planning, or he could follow through with the family that raised him and do what is expected of most people, and that's to be loyal to the people that raise you and to the people that you build a life with. However, Itachi, as someone that kind of looked at everything that existed, right? He was a character that understood that if I go with my village, I have to kill the people that raised me. But if I go with the people that raised me, if I go with my family, then the leaf is going to crumble. And a lot of people, obviously, you either agree with Itachi or you don't. It's a very black or white situation to a lot of people, even though if you think about it, it's really not. It's easy to look at Itachi and say the Uchiha were planning to coup and they needed to go. Or it's also easy to look at Itachi as like, an Uncle Tom character. He betrayed his clan, he betrayed his own people. But at the same time, the way that Itachi was viewing things, he understood that no matter what he did, whether he participated in this battle or not, the Uchiha were always going to betray the Leaf, and the Leaf were always going to betray the Uchiha. If Itachi was never born, none of the events would have played out differently. Yet the fact that Itachi was born potentially gave him the opportunity to change things. Instead of playing both sides, which we know Itachi does but doesn't at the same time, because he does ultimately have an ideal of protecting his brother and protecting the Leaf. But actually, what Itachi chooses to do isn't just because he thinks the village is better than the family that raised him. Itachi knows that looking forward in multiple years, when the leaf is taken over by the Uchiha, it will disrupt everything so greatly. Whether the Uchiha wins or the leaf wins, it doesn't matter. The Uchiha, one of the strongest clans in the leaf, staging a coup could have destabilized the leaf so much that it could have started either a new world war, or other villages could have invaded and completely slaughtered innocent lives to take over the leaf's territory. It always came down to saving the most lives possible, and Itachi considered that utmost above all else, above all kinds of loyalty. He chose the option that saved the most people, which was going against his clan. Something that has come up recently in my life, and has come up over and over again in multiple different instances, never in like a clan, extermination situation, right? But in more of a world being out of our control situation, and at the end of the day, whether or not we participate in things are going to happen, but also at the same time, we are, present in a lot of systems and a lot of situations. So why shouldn't we exert the level of power that we do have to do our best to kind of influence and change things for the better? And it always reminds me of a final monologue that Sosuke Aizen mentioned at the end of his journey in Bleach as a villain. And to give you a bit of context for that and why Aizen's monologue matters before I get into it, is I had a conversation with a friend a long time ago, and that conversation involved what the world should be like. And essentially, long story short, this person believed that the world is the way that the world is, so we need to do the best that we can with what we have. In regards to, let's say, if you are, like a school teacher, and the school that you're teaching at doesn't have the resources to give you a lot of the tools that you need. You do the best you can, but you know that your kids are great kids and you're going to do the best that you can with what you have. However, there's also the option of, the way that the world should be, which is, maybe everybody should have the best possible opportunity that we can make. Obviously, I'm almost 30 years old. I understand the idea of a perfect world is never going to happen. I understand that idealism leads to nothing, but this is also going into exactly what Sosuke Aizen says, and conflict that I had with this person's ideology, which was, even given the option that they could have had everything given to them without repercussion, even without it being an option, they believed that it was better for them to not get all of that stuff because it wasn't a necessity, and they believed that this is the life that they chose and they're going to do the best they can, and they can't rely on anybody else. Even though getting that help would be completely without repercussion, they chose that they would refuse that help no matter what. And when you think about it, I viewed that as inherently a little selfish, just because there are people that are depending on you and they could inadvertently be hurt because you're not willing to take the help that you can get. And it, again, tying it all back into anime and manga as to not completely throw people on slander, because again, I still love this person, we're still friends, people's worldviews are always going to be different. When I think about the conflict between Sosuke Aizen and Kisuke Urahara at the end of Bleach, when Sosuke Aizen is getting sealed and he's having his internal monologue and he's screaming at the top of his lungs at Urahara, real people with power should think about the way the world should be, as opposed to just accepting the way that the world is. Aizen was so furious with Urahara, not because Urahara had defeated him and bested him. He always respected Urahara as an intelligent person, which is exactly why Aizen was so mad. In Aizen's eyes, the world of Bleach, the world with the Soul King as the linchpin of the world, was flawed, was deeply and inherently unrighteous for people to listen and adhere to the world that was created by something that can't even speak, think, or move, and is just literally a balance beam, a figurative atlas that could potentially shrug and throw the entire 3 to 4 worlds out of whack and chaos, which ultimately ends up happening in the 1,000-year blood war. Aizen is furious because Urahara, for as intelligent as he is willing to fight for the Soul King and accept the Soul King's reign just because this is the way the world is, and we shouldn't change the way the world is because we don't know what could potentially happen if we do change the world. And Aizen outright rejects that because he fully believes that as people with intelligence, as people with power, we should be willing to question. We should be willing to go out of our way and change the status quo from what it is. Sure, best option is always going to be the option that causes the least amount of pain for the least amount of people, which is to keep things going the way it is and work within our means to do the best we can. And maybe every once in a while we get a fun little pizza party, and every once in a while we are able to get let outside for recess and enjoy. But in my opinion, I completely agree with Aizen here, because again, with Itachi and an even grander scheme, Aizen, who as a villain completely thwarts and betrays all of Soul Society, throws an entire civilization out of whack, completely betrays all of them, deceives them, throws so many background illusions, destroys so many characters' personalities and scars them for life. All of this because Aizen was born so powerful that he was able to do it. Just like Itachi was blessed with an ability that he was given the power to take on his entire clan solo-handedly. Sure, he had help from Obito, but either way, it's insane to me that Aizen, when looking at everything that he had and everything that he could do, instead of accepting the way that the world was and just doing the best he could, living as the best captain of the Gote 13 and maybe helping as many people as he could, training Momo and trying to exterminate Hollows, Aizen said, screw all of that. I'm going to change this entire universe and make it the way that I believe it should be. And sure, Aizen is a villain. Aizen is not a good person. I don't think Aizen is a good role model. And I think if you look at Aizen to a role model, you're probably either very young, a little Machiavellian, and I'm sure hopefully that you mature and you grow up, because Sosuke Aizen is definitely a cautionary tale of having so much individualistic power does not change anything, because at the end of the day, Aizen just would have been another tyrant, hurt so many people on the way to achieving this change that he so desired in the world. It ended up causing more damage to the universe than good. I don't agree with Aizen's methods and what Aizen was doing. I agree with what Aizen is saying to Urahara, because he is saying, Urahara, you shouldn't accept this world, this universe that we live in. You have the power to change it. You should be like me, doing things to not accept the way that things are. And it brought me back. You should always strive to help. If you can get help, you shouldn't be too proud to accept it. Pride is a sin. As someone that's not even very much religious themselves, I consider pride as not just a sin, but also just a flaw in humanity. We as people are sometimes too proud. I'm not saying I'm never proud. I'm a proud person myself, but sometimes pride gets you in trouble. And sometimes pride can hurt other people. Aizen's pride hurt other people. And having a pride where you're refusing to accept any kind of aid or help because you believe that you should pick yourself up by your bootstraps and do things yourself, I think is inherently selfish to the people that rely on you for that care. And that brings me to the closing character, honestly, that as of late has gotten so much character assassination, not by the writer or by the story, but by the community that reads it. And that's Gojo Satoru from Jujutsu Kaisen. And the comparison that I would love to make to Gojo here when it comes to Aizen's belief that you can't accept the world for what it is when it's not perfect. You should always strive for perfection, even though perfection is but a dream. Even though that perfection may come in a world that you can't see yourself, you should always strive, because your goal should be to help the people that come after you. Too many people focus on helping themselves, using that individualistic power that Aizen uses to get what he wants and get his instant gratification, because he believes that he deserves it. He deserves a better world and he wants it for himself. When in reality, I think it's ultimately sometimes impossible to create an instant change in the world. And as someone, you know, that understands progress and understands the changes that we need to make in the world, I also understand that there's no possible way that ends up changing the world overnight that's going to lead to good results whatsoever. Even if you want to say that figuratively in a fiction, let's say, for example, you live in Attack on Titan world, you're like, dude, I don't like what's going on here. I just want to burn it all to the ground and start over. Even if you want to give that a fictional reality, the thing is burning everything to the ground and starting over fresh for you, yourself, and the people that you want is no different than what Aizen did. All you're doing is hurting people now to potentially just end up hurting all the other people later. No matter what happens, no matter what you do in one generation, you'll never fix humanity's flaws. There's always going to be people that want to abuse their positions of power, that want to get over on others and be criminals, especially when there's things like inequality and reasons for people to try to get rich or join these elite classes that exist in the world. And no matter what you want to say, and no matter what way you feel about all of the things in society that we have today, one thing that is ultimately so true, and I even see this with Jujutsu Kaisen's writing and even Jujutsu Kaisen's sequels writing, because a lot of people were upset that the world of Jujutsu Kaisen wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, and sometimes people were abusing their clan's power to hurt their own children. Sometimes people are doing and committing crimes to poor people for no reason other than self-gain, and that will always happen no matter what world you create. Try as you might to be successful, you can't change the world in one generation, but that's why you need to focus on that next generation every single time. You shouldn't be focusing on changing the world for yourself. You should be focusing on changing the world for the next generation and that next generation after you. So that way, maybe perfection doesn't exist tomorrow, but it may exist 10 generations from now. And that's a message that Gojo Satoru ultimately embodies even towards the end of the series of Jujutsu Kaisen. Gojo's whole entire character, despite having the same level of power, that same level of strength similar to Sosuke Aizen, where Geto Suguru in that timeless classic scene in front of the KFC where he's asking Gojo, you could do it, you could change the world. Are you the strongest because you're Gojo, or are you Gojo because you're the strongest? And instead of burning it all to the ground, killing the higher ups right then and there and trying to start a new world, which Gojo very much could, what he instead focuses on is raising the next generation of sorcerers to not just be better than he ever could, but be a level of enlightened, pass that message on that everyone can take a second chance, everyone can turn around, and everyone can help one another grow and make a better world, which is ultimately what I think Akutami was trying to get across in chapter 271 of Jujutsu Kaisen. Yuji sending off that curse user, he tells that curse user he's expecting great things of him, just like Gojo expected great things of Yuji, because at the end of the day, no one's story is over until it's over. That person might have done bad things before, but may be able to do good things now and help that next generation that comes after Yuji, after Maki, after Yuta. That's what Gojo really wanted to do. Gojo fighting Sukuna and not surviving that battle. Gojo could have changed the world overnight, but all he would have done is create a new world of hardships. You can see this in Gojo vs Sukuna, when no matter how much power Gojo had, he couldn't change Sukuna's mind. He couldn't reach Sukuna. But you want to know what connected to Sukuna at the end of Shinjuku Showdown? The Shinjuku Showdown squad all working together and spending 30 to 40 chapters fighting one guy just to win and doing everything they could for one common goal. And what happens when Sukuna dies and he sees Mahito in limbo? He says, you know what? I lost and I'm going to choose a different path. What I'm trying to say is we should always strive to change the world. The thing is, though, is we can't do it alone. We have to do it together. Understand what the world is. Understand it to its finest minute degree. When you understand the world and you understand your place in it, you'll understand how much better you can influence the world around you to be better for that next generation, with community, with building everything for people that come after. Because again, individual strength doesn't topple and change the world. It's a group effort. Everyone has to work together to change the world. It can be done. The world can change. And while sometimes you have to make strides yourself, it is important to remember that getting together and understanding that we together are powerful, we together are strong, and we can change the world if we want to. I am sorry for this very long yap session. I had a lot on my mind, and again, this probably won't be edited very well. I hope you guys like this, or this was interesting for you, but I really needed to get a lot of that off my chest, and I hope whoever out there, if you do make it all the way to the end, you enjoyed this. Maybe check out some of my other content if you would like. There's probably going to be a video on the end screen, very similar, just going through a lot of characters that I enjoy and what I enjoy about their character when it comes to loyalty and betrayal. Thank you to anyone that watches a second of my content. You're all amazing people. I love you more than anything in the world. No matter what way you feel about anything in the world, just know that we're all human beings, we're all people, and all 8 billion of us are stronger together than we are divided. Love you all. Peace.